finally, be yourself in retirement. Let's talk about it. Hey there, I'm Chris with Your Weekender. I'm here to deliver plain talk, interesting topics, and simple videos, mostly centered around retirement, nostalgia from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and other random topics from time to time. So thank you for stopping by. So let's start with a handful of quotes from some notable individuals as it relates to retirement. Jean Perret. Jean Perret was an American comedy writer and producer. He won 3 Emmys for his work on The Carol Burnett Show. He also worked for Bob Hope for 28 years. He had this to say about retirement. Retirement. That's when you return from work one day and say, "Hi, honey, I'm home forever." That one makes me laugh. Abe Lemons. Abe Lemons was an American college basketball player and coach. He said, "The trouble with retirement is that you never get a day off." Well, I'll take that. Jonathan Clements. Jonathan Clements is a British author and scriptwriter. He said, "Retirement is like a long vacation in Las Vegas. The goal is to enjoy it to the fullest, but not so fully that you run out of money." Absolutely. And finally, John Anthony West. John Anthony West is a well-known American author and lecturer. And he said this, "Don't act your age in retirement. Act like the inner young person that you have always been." For many of us that were born in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and worked a good part of our careers in the 80s and 90s, the corporate workplace was a fairly conservative place, especially when it came to banking and financial institutions, which is where I spent a fair share of my information technology career. I will say that I'm sure that the 80s and 90s were far less conservative than, say, the 40s or 50s, but that's just a guess. I wasn't there during that time. But you see lots of pictures from that time period, and people are always very well dressed in offices and what have you. So, again, just a guess on that. But early in my career, the things that I recall are hair restrictions. Usually for men, but I'm sure that there were guidelines for women as well. For men, the push was for shorter, well-groomed styles, usually above the ear, not too long in the back, that sort of thing. I recall mustache and beard restrictions. Consider something as simple as a 5 o'clock shadow, like this one. Probably that would have earned me a trip back home to shave before I could have continued with my workday back in the early 80s or 90s. How about another one? Dress codes. So early in my career, slacks, dress shirts, ties were mandatory. Although no suit or sport jackets were required. Lucky us, right? But we've come a long way. In the last 5 to 10 years of my working career, I don't recall seeing very many dress shirts and ties at all. In fact, almost never. Well, now that you're retired and I'm retired, we can work on that 80s rock star hairstyle and grow out that beard. After all, it's our time to be ourselves. And isn't that the point? So, beyond hair and dress codes, what else was there that interfered with the real you? How about time? A typical full-time job required a minimum of 40 hours a week, but usually a good bit more, depending on your career selection. And this is just eating away at your personal time where you would otherwise thrive at being you. And this one, competition. Competition for recognition, competition for bonuses, competitions for a position, heck, maybe even competition to retain the job that you already held. Look, I get it. Competition makes us all better, and most of the time results in better products and services. But having to always be in competition with your colleagues and friends certainly alters the real you. I, for one, do not and will not miss this. I'll just compete with the family to get that last piece of chocolate. And if I lose, I'll just go and buy more, and that way we all win. And finally, worst of all, was commuting. You talk about soul crushing. I personally spent thousands upon thousands of hours staring at the rear end of other cars. And I just have to suspect that if I could have had that time to myself, how things might have been different in my personal life. And just to be clear, I am very thankful for all the opportunities that I had throughout my working career. I worked for some great companies with some great people, and without those opportunities, I wouldn't be sitting here making these videos for you today. So thank you to all of the companies that I worked for, and for all the colleagues and friends that are still working. Keep plugging away. Your day is coming, and we'll look forward to having you on this side. So this was just a short video on a few things that have come to my mind in the last couple of months since I early retired back in November. I know that there are many other things that potentially stunted your growth and perhaps mine in our careers. But if you think of any, let us know in the comment section below. We would certainly be interested in hearing what those are. But with all that said, don't worry. You have a retirement to get back on track towards being you. So don't hold back and let it all hang out. Thank you for hanging around to the end. I hope you found that interesting. This is Chris with your Weekender, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.